Yes, we're gonna be watching Jeffrey Dahmer. What's up, man? This is Sledrorodriguez. Welcome back to my channel. Man, we're gonna be looking into Jeffrey Dahmer's story. Interesting motherfucker. I've been watching. I rewatched the Netflix series. That shit was interesting. That shit. Go watch that if you haven't watched that. But yeah, man, I'm finna be using my phone reacting. I'm talking about using what I got. Making a way out of nowhere. You heard? All right, man. Let's get to the whoops.
Jeffrey Dahmer, necrophiliac and cannibal, murdered 17 men and boys over the course of 13 years. But what was going on in the mind of this monster? Are killers born evil, or do they become evil over time?
My name is Dr. Eric Hickey. I'm a criminal psychologist by trade, and my areas of expertise are homicide, sex crime, and psychopathology. I work on the dark side, pretty much.
Dr. Hickey has an unusual connection to the Dahmer case that no other criminal psychologist has.
Dr. Hickey? What the fuck?
I became involved with the Dahmer case many years ago. I happened to be in a store. I saw a man who looked unusual. So I just walked over to him and started talking to him. And he said he was from Chicago. I said, "But what brings you to California?" And he said, "My mom tried to kill herself. And I came out to help her." I said, "I know who you are. You're Jeffrey Dahmer's brother, aren't you?" So we became friends. I met his mother and interviewed her. And oh my gosh, that just led to so many other things. Because of that moment in the store, it led to a whole other avenue of investigation.
Let's start from the beginning. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21st, 1960 to Lionel Dahmer and Joyce Annette
He's a Gemini, by the way.
Dahmer. As a child, Dahmer was often isolated. Both of his parents struggled with depression and fought constantly throughout their marriage.
So Jeffrey had a difficult childhood. There was problems in the home between the husband and wife. There wasn't a close-knit family. He didn't have the attachment that most people have growing up, and he felt alone. Of course, one day he comes home, I think when he was 17, his mother was gone. She took David, the son, youngest son, and left. And that really was traumatizing.
I'm all fucked up for only taking David real spill.
For him.
The young Dahmer was painfully shy and withdrawn. He also displayed an interest in dead animals, dissecting carcasses and collecting chicken bones and bleaching them. He stated that this process excited him. This is not uncommon with any child that experiences trauma, and it's certainly a common trait among many serial killers.
When we talk about animal abuse, setting fires, these are results of childhood trauma, lack of attachment. Children can't express themselves. They can't tell you what's really bothering them, so they'll often set fires or hurt animals. That's their voice. This is a cry for help. The piece that we never talk about is the fantasies that fuel the fire.
Dahmer's trauma and fascination.
Y'all hear that? So apparently, if you like to start fires, so there's something fucking wrong with you.
Dead animals began to interact with his blossoming sexuality. He became obsessed with having control and power. It was also around this time that he realized he was gay, which made him feel ashamed and confused.
He really was very conflicted as well. He was lonely, conflicted, had lack of attachment. All these things kind of set the groundwork for where he would go. Very interesting process, because it wasn't one day he just woke up and said, "I'm going to be a killer." I mean, he built into that over the period of several years. As you recall, in this case, he had fantasies about killing a young man. Over time, fantasies become behavior.
Started having obsessive thoughts of violence intermingled with sex. And it just got worse and worse. I didn't know how to tell anyone about it, so I didn't. I just kept it all inside.
He had a desire to be with someone who had been buried. So in paraphilic terms, he had this sexual fantasy about being with someone who was unconscious.
Merriam-Webster defines paraphilia as a pattern of recurring sexually arousing mental imagery or behavior that involves unusual and especially socially unacceptable sexual practices.
Now, there's different kinds of paraphilia, right? There's the non-criminal paraphilia. They get into latex, they get into plushies and furries, things like that. We do know by the time that young men reach the age of 18, 99% have masturbated themselves into oblivion. We know that for a fact, okay? I'm always being concerned about that 1% that who didn't. What happened to them? Are they lying? What happened? About 10% of American males are involved with different forms of paraphilia. 4 of those 10 men are actually into criminal paraphilia. I mean, about half of those then get into the very, very violent types of criminal paraphilia.
In high school, Dahmer began drinking heavily to cope with his dark fantasies. He was known to play pranks and fake epileptic fits. By the time he was 16, he began fantasizing about what it would be like to have sex with a dead body.
Jeffrey had a lot of fantasies, didn't show those fantasies. Over time, fantasies become behavior.
Man, that nigga just needed to get laid, man. You need to have a homie to get him laid, you know?
So nobody wakes up in the morning as a necrophile. It's a process of becoming. People get into these fantasies, and the fantasies develop. We're all sexual beings. We all have to find ways to be sexual. But there are groups of people in our society who are not comfortable in their own skin. They're not comfortable talking to other people. Now, there's a reason why he was more comfortable with dead people, because he lacked the skill set to be intimate. He had such low self-esteem. He was so insecure in his own life that eventually he became more comfortable with people who then who would not reject him. They were dead.
For everyday expenses like groceries or bills, send money quickly, easily, and reliably with MoneyGram.
Now don't you worry. I'm gonna take real good care of your windows.
It was only a matter of time before Dahmer enacted one of his fantasies. In June 1978, 3 weeks after high school graduation, Dahmer picked up hitchhiker Stephen Hicks and brought him back to his father's house.
I don't know if it was the 80s or 70s, but around that time, serial killers were starting to pop off, you know?
The two shared a few drinks, but when Hicks tried to leave, Dahmer bludgeoned him with a barbell. Dahmer proceeded to have sex with the body before dismembering and disposing of it.
When Jeffrey killed Stephen Hicks, it was, I'm sure, a great relief for him. He finally got to act out his fantasies. He already knew how he was going to do it. I mean, he had planned out in fantasy first, and so he knew that this was the right time and moment to grab him, lure him in, and kill him. And now he gets to be with the body, and finally, that was his level of intimacy. He gets to be intimate with the body, which most of us take for granted in normal relationships. But now this person's dead. They're not going to reject him. They're not going to laugh at him. They're not going to make him feel insecure. He gets to do what he wants to do. And I think that really set the stage for later on in his life as he fantasized.
After high school, Dahmer joined the army but was discharged in 1981. Then, Dahmer moved in with his grandmother and worked the graveyard shift at a local chocolate company.
And he raped somebody in the army too, real spill.
Dahmer wouldn't kill again for almost 10 years. How is it possible that someone like him is able to control his urges? Did he find other ways to satisfy himself?
So that's when I went to meet Jeffrey Dahmer's mother. That was a really interesting...
He did, man, because I was watching another video. Apparently he masturbated every day, man. I shouldn't even be saying that because my videos don't get age restricted.
Interview that we had, so I know that Dahmer had been doing something bad during all those years when he hadn't been killing. And she said, well, he did tell me, because at his trial, it didn't come out. But I'll tell you now, in confidence, what he told me. And I'm going to quote her. She said, you know, he would look at young men who'd been killed in a car accident, they died of illnesses. He would go to the viewings. Then he would go to the funerals. Then he would go to the cemeteries where they were buried. And at night, he would dig them up, have sex with them. Those were his words to me. That kept him occupied for several years. So he kept the fantasies going and actually acting out. How many he had sex with, I don't know. She doesn't know. She didn't know. But certainly, the whole fantasy development about being with someone.
This nigga was dirty as hell. He didn't even mind the smell of this disgusting. I don't want to get this Asian. Usually be trying to control me with that age restricted shit, you know.
Who've been buried was really, really important to him.
But grave robbing couldn't satisfy his urges for long. He even owned a mannequin at one point, but it wasn't the same thing. In 1987, Dahmer's killing career would resume, and he would take the lives of 16 additional men and boys. Often, he picked them up at gay bars, bathhouses, and porn shops, and take them back to his apartment for a drink.
He was very low profile. He'd just meet people, he was very friendly. Yeah, invite them to his home. Sure, come over, have a drink. And then he would spike the drink, and they'd become unconscious. In the beginning, it wasn't that way. The men went to his home. They stayed with him for a few days. He didn't kill them immediately. It's when they said they had to leave that...
Man, I just zoned out, man, because this is fucked up. It's something to think about, you know.
That's when he knew he had to kill them, because he couldn't allow them to abandon him, to reject him.
Many of Dahmer's victims shared a similar profile. They were mostly men of color who were in peak physical condition, or in Dahmer's words, had a Chippendale body type.
I think he deliberately selected men in places that he thought these men would not be missed. And there may have been this piece, I'm speculating on this. They chose men of color because he wasn't a man of color. And that way, he wouldn't be a suspect. Because if these men of color were disappearing, they'd be looking for someone else of a man of color who might be doing it. And he certainly didn't fit that description.
Once his victim was unconscious, Dahmer would strangle them, then proceed to have sex with the body. But because Dahmer engaged in these activities within the confines of his apartment, he had the freedom to explore other sexual desires as well. He would dismember the bodies, sleep next to the corpses, and cut holes in the torso to use it for sex. He decapitated and castrated his victims, would clean the flesh off their bones and collect the skulls. He drilled holes into his victims' heads in an attempt to turn them into zombies.
So a great question is, how does a person desensitize themselves to the point where they can actually kill people and have sex with them after they're dead? Why would somebody want to do this? Well, their need is so great to be with somebody, even if they're dead, at least it is a form of intimacy. Yeah, I think about that. That's a pretty dark place to be in your life. But people are there. There are people who do this, and I've interviewed them.
In a huge escalation of his behavior,
This guy was sick, y'all.
he also began to eat the flesh of his victims.
So there's different forms of cannibalism, and some is not sexual. We know there have been Indian tribes and so forth, they have eaten their victims, but it wasn't sexualized. We know in some cases...
Then there's a sexy cannibalism. Like, what the fuck? How cannibalism? Man, stop playing, boy.
As in the case of Jeffrey Dahmer, there was a second component to it. Now, there is the blood part, where he sampled the blood. So blood itself is a type of paraphilia. I'm sure he tasted it. And from there, it was very easy to then...
I seen him steal a bag of fucking blood, and then, you know that bag of blood was cold, and he just drunk it. You know that stuff was nasty.
taste the flesh. And of course, you know, terrible thing to say, but tastes like chicken. I mean, it was something that they explored, and so...
My mama did say eating flesh is like a rush, bro. I think it's the rush because you know you eating something bad, and then people gonna probably think it gets some power or shit like that. This is temporary high, bro. That's what it is.
It didn't taste bad. Then he kept advancing in that and doing more of that.
I think it's fucked up that we talking about this, man.
So Jeffrey ate penises. I mean, he ate internal organs, and he was...
Yo, I'm like 100% sure. And if not, I'm gonna be fucking surprised that my video's gonna get age restricted, and I might have to take this video down, y'all. You know, 'cause motherfucker, YouTube is, and YouTube got soft. Oops, excuse me. I gotta get a new phone and a car. I don't know which one to get first because when I try to upload videos for y'all, like, it's getting kind of difficult to upload videos for y'all. Man, somebody ate my fucking ice cream. Man, whatever, cut. Man, I'll see how I'm feeling when I come back. But yeah, it's getting kind of hard for me to record videos for y'all because it be like freezing up when I be typing things. It freezes up. I be having to turn my phone on and off. Like, it's just acting up on me, bro. So I might have to get a new phone, but I need a car too. So I just gotta save up. Yeah, man. Back in my room, back to the whoop. Let's get back to the whoop, man. I do not want this video to get age restricted, bro. Cause I don't want to keep fucking making videos, bro. Real spill. I'm just trying to fucking chill. Probably go to sleep if I want to. You know what I'm talking about?
You guys want to see something cool?
Cause I'm telling you, bro, I can't even upload the fucking video. It be like kicking me out when I try to upload it, so that shit is annoying, you know? Real spill. But yeah, we ain't finna be complaining, bro. I'm just saying, like, I just need to get a new phone, bro, and a new car. But I should really be getting a motorcycle, but a motorcycle gonna be cost more. Cause I ain't got my car license and I need to get away from them dickheads, you know? Man, that's gonna be 2,000 type shit, you know?
In some ways, I guess, socializing, if you will. He was exploring their bodies, and he had some favorite victims, people he preferred. Physically, they were becoming part of him. He drank their blood, they were part of him, and now he eats their flesh. It was all part of this, I need to feel powerful. I need to feel I'm normal.
All of this was working towards one
Whole time, what if this really like some Illuminati shit? Like, there's a lizard dude who needs to drink this to survive. You know what I'm talking about? Real shit.
grandiose plan that Jeffrey Dahmer had in his mind. A fantasy that would eclipse everything before it.
So this drawing by Jeffrey Dahmer details his fantasies. On this end of the table, he had one fully articulated skeleton. On the other end, another one was in the bathroom, that he was still taking the flesh off the bones. And then all these heads on this table behind him. He says, I could sit in this black chair, surrounded by my friends, my best friends, and they could never leave me because they were physically part of me. And emotionally, they were part of me. He said, when I could sit in that chair, he said, I would finally feel powerful. Those are his words. I would feel powerful. But the truth is, you never feel comfortable in your own skin.
Jeffrey Dahmer was almost caught several times. One of his victims, Konorak Synthesymphone, even escaped at first and was found by police in the middle of the night. However, Dahmer managed to convince officers that they were lovers, and the police let Dahmer go.
He had practice, and the more practice he did, the easier.
For real, bro, you know how they be like, you could tell, like, SPM, he impregnated a 13-year-old girl, and they excuse this. Man, I don't give a fuck. You could tell when somebody 13. Well, then what the fuck? Look at them cops. You tell me he couldn't tell that boy was 13? Real spill, you know?
Became, and
It was either some racist shit, they didn't want to do paperwork, or maybe sometimes you really can't tell, you know?
there was no turning back. There was escalation, absolutely, which would eventually, he knew intellectually that an end was coming. Absolutely, he knew.
Just before midnight on July 22nd, 1991, a would-be victim of Dahmer's, Tracy Edwards, escaped from Dahmer's apartment where he had been captive.
Oh yeah, my video finna get extra strict as fuck it, man. I ain't got no loose. Got the moon rocks right here. Got some medical gas right here. I'm talking about. Hold on, I'm gonna have to pull that bitch out. So get your 420.